What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So, Nick, Ian Garry's back in action this week, taking on Neil Magny, who's always game, always down to step in short notice, and is really good everywhere. He's such a veteran of the sport. He's been around so long, really fought everybody, but it certainly seems like there's a lot of momentum behind Ian Garry right now. A lot of comparisons being drawn to Conor McGregor. I think it's a little bit early for that, but I'm certainly excited to see him back in there, and I think this is a winnable matchup for him.
Yeah, I think those comparisons come because he has the accent and he kind of can speak really well on the microphone, and he just has that charisma about him. But 170 has some real killers on the rise, and a lot of people completely overlook Ian Garry. You know, there's actually multiple undefeated beasts at 170, and I didn't realize it until recently that he's one of those beasts.
Yeah.
He's 12-0, and with a win over Neil Magny, he could really jump himself right into some bigger names. I don't think he's ready to take on the top 5 or anything yet, but there's some great names and some great matchups for him between, ranking 6 through 15. And I think if he's able to get his hand raised against Neil Magny and show us some more wrinkles in his game, he could be a real star and a top contender eventually. Now, Neil Magny is very difficult to beat, and there's a lot of people that have come up and the UFC tried to, basically build off of Neil Magny, and then he's just kind of flipped the script on him and made it a real rough night for that future prospect. But I believe the future, Ian Garry is going to get his hand raised against Neil Magny. And I think Neil Magny has the skills to beat Ian, but Ian's dangerous in the beginning of the fight. He's got really good striking, seems to have a bit of a pop on his punches. And when Neil Magny gets cracked early in a fight, he tends to become a bit of a shell of himself, and he gets a little bit gun shy. So I think Ian Garry's going to go out there just like he always does. He's on a pay-per-view slot. He's going to go try to make a statement. He's going to try to, take that feature bout spot and run with it as far as he possibly can. And who knows what's going to happen. And I know he's got a lot of finishing skills, and he has the ability to knock out some of the guys at 170. But Neil Magny's a pretty durable guy. So I actually see this one going all 3 rounds and Ian Garry getting his hand raised.
Yeah, the feature bout of the night right before the co-main event is a great spot to be. And Ian Garry's in a great spot as a whole. Mid-20s, undefeated, 12-0, fighting on pay-per-views, fighting legends like Neil Magny. I think the UFC, with a win here by Garry, which I'm also going to predict that he defeats Neil Magny, I think he's going to win by TKO. And I think it's going to happen early, actually. I think it's going to happen in the first round. And if my prediction is right, I believe that the UFC will put him on a fight night main event card somewhere probably in Ireland or in the UK, and see how big of a star they can actually build out of Ian Garry. You touched on the one problem with him. He's at 170, and there are some absolute monsters in that division right now. Shavkat Rakhmonov. We don't know if Khamzat Chimaev is going to be coming back down to 170. Recent pictures of him would indicate that he's probably not, but even still, 170 is a notoriously tough division to make it to the top of. So I don't see him having that meteoric rise like another Irish fighter that we saw in the not so distant past. But I do think he's a really charismatic guy. He's a very likable fighter. He's got a fun style to watch. He finishes most of his fights by knockout or technical knockout. So I think the UFC will definitely put some promotional dollars behind this young man because of his age, his skill, and what the future for Ian Garry could look like.
Absolutely. He's crisp with his striking. He's smooth on the microphone afterwards. And I think if he's able to keep getting his hand raised, he's going to have a very bright future.
I agree with you.